Now, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has announced a sweeping GST rate cuts. Let's take a look at those details. Now, Union Finance Minister on Wednesday announced a sweeping rate cuts on GST effective September 22nd, and as per the new structure, there will be now two slabs, just about 5 and 18%, and this means that there will be GST cut on a lot of daily use household items. Now, let's get you more details on what's getting cheaper and what's getting expensive. Several items will now have 0% or nil tax. Some will be now added to the 40% sin tax slab. Let's take a look at the list. In fact, the biggest tax cuts have come on food, medicine, essential items, farm goods, green energy, small cars and even bikes. Essential items such as food and everyday products will also have a tax slab of 5%. In fact, this includes drinks, butter, ghee, dry nuts, condensed milk, sausages, meat, sugar, confectionery, jam, jellies, tender coconut water, namkeen, 20-litre bottled drinking water, fruit pulp, juice, milk-based beverages, ice creams, pastries, biscuits. In fact, all of this will now see a tax reduction to 5%, and this is from 18%. Individual life and health insurance policies, including family floater, and 33 life-saving drugs, including anti-cancer medicines. All of this will now have a 12% tax. In fact, all of this which had a 12% tax will no longer be taxed. A massive chunk of medical items of regular use, including thermometer and glucometer, will also be in the 5% tax bracket. Further, items like television, air conditioners, motorbikes under 350cc will now come under the 18% slab. Small cars, petrol vehicles up to 1200cc and diesel vehicles up to 1500cc. All of this will now come under 18% tax slab. Remember, the rest will draw a tax of about 28%. In fact, luxury items and sin goods will now have a heavy hike. There will be a sin tax of about 40% that would apply to tobacco products, carbonated beverages, mid-size and large cars, and along with bikes above 350cc. Now, government has also given relief to farmers, with agricultural implements now coming down from 12% earlier to 5%. In fact, education has also been made more affordable, with a tax on excise books, notebooks, pencils, erasers and even crayons coming down to 5% from the earlier 12%. So this is the list of items that will now be shifted to 5% tax bracket from the earlier 12%.
The tariff turmoil is not a matter which influenced the GST reform, because we've been at it now for more than 1.5 years. Some group of ministers was working on rate rationalization. Some other group of ministers a bit later was working on insurance, and so on. And compensation cess was a reality, that it is going to end the moment you paid back the loan. None of this has anything to do with the tariffs. So, no, there's nothing to do with the tariffs at all. One. Second, you were talking about petrol, diesel, 8 states. None of that was subject of our discussion, because that is not part of the GST Council at all. And the third, numbers are being thrown around. This much loss, that much loss. You've just heard the Revenue Secretary detail on the basis of 23-24 numbers. Am I right? 23-24 data, which is the last available for all the categories. And he stated what is the net amount that we'll have to be looking at. So there is nothing more. I'm not going to join forces to argue on, oh, somebody said this much, somebody else said that much. Our data is here, we put it, and that is coming out to all of you all as well in the press note. There is a special rate which is 40%. Actually, almost all goods are between 18 and 5. If there's any change, they only can shuffle between the 18 and 5. There is one special rate which is only for sin and super luxury goods. That special rate of 40% has also been proposed, and it's cleared. That will apply only to pan masala, cigarettes, gutka, and other tobacco products such as chewing tobacco, products like zarda, unmanufactured tobacco, and BD. All goods, including aerated waters, containing added sugar or other sweetening matter or flavored, caffeinated beverages, carbonated beverages or fruit drink, or carbonated beverages with fruit juice and other non-alcoholic beverages, excluding those specified at lower rates, will all be covered under 40%. To look at the GST Council as where the center and the states are seated together. I mentioned this in the council also. The center may be a 1/3 partner, the states put together can be 2/3 partner. But we are all in it together. So anything that which is gained or lost is for everybody. It's not as though states have lost, the center is not gained. If all of us have lost, all of us have lost. To understand in the GST Council, the center and the states are together in it. Nobody is a donor and nobody is a donee within the GST Council.
All right, I'm now being joined by Shubhamoy Bhattaji, consulting editor at the Business Standard. Thank you, Mr. Bhattaji, for joining us this morning. Now, I will go into the impact of these rate cuts, but first, let's understand what is the rationale behind simplifying the GST structure here into just 2 slabs, and what were the kind of problems you're facing with multiple tax slabs?
With the multiple tax slabs, it's clear that the basic problem was not the collection, but the basic problem was that there was a lot of paperwork that used to come in. So any product that would come out in the market, there was always a possibility that it would be taxed at one rate, the inputs would be taxed at different rates. There would be a lot of problems whenever you are changing in terms of the components of the product. Rates would change. So they were these sort of stuff. While GST is a very good thing, a goods and services tax was something that India has been very brave in attempting. These problems made it much more complicated, and especially for smaller and medium enterprises. This was something that was very difficult, and that is what the new rate structure here, clarifies. By making it just 5 and 18%, what we are now getting is a very clear-cut idea that consumption, like food items and all sort of things of that sort, all come under the 5% basket. Services basically stays at 18% basket. So that's a very good system, very clear system that we can now use to operate, and definitely it helps the economy. Yeah.
All right, so a much simplified structure with just 2 slabs now, 5 and 18%. And like you mentioned, that the price drops on everyday food item is something very crucial that's going to come into effect. I want to understand to what extent could this translate into visible savings for middle class, because that becomes very essential for the middle class.
Any tax cut by the government always creates a benefit in every class. More than the for the upper middle class, they can afford to they could have lived with this the original tax structure. But indirect taxes, which is essentially what is GST, hits the middle class and the lower middle class particularly. India has a huge informal economy, and for them to come into the benefit of the formal economy, it was important that the tax rates were reasonable, predictable, and lowered. Predictable had become clear with GST. GST had made it very predictable. It wasn't low because of the revenue considerations for the central and the state governments. That has been made low by this huge, very welcome change in the GST structure. So definitely everybody's income gets a boost with the lower tax. So at every stage, right? From the morning till night, every item will be affected by the new GST structure. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Batterjee. Now, Mitali Nikor is also joining me on the broadcast, economist and founder, Nikor Associates. Thank you, Mitali, for joining us here. Now, I want to understand, we now know that there will be a simpler structure of just two tax slabs, 5 and 18%. Help our viewers understand what will get cheaper and what will get expensive for them.
No, so I think that, a lot of small items and issues are being pointed out. I just want to point out a few large key takeaways, which is very critical. The first is that all food related items, all beverage related items, all food and beverage related items are surely going to get, cheaper. I think that is the most important, takeaway that we are getting, because food and beverage is the everyday use item, and that has immediately been made cheaper. Whether it's from the 18%, it's been brought down to 5%, or from 12% to 5%. So any food related item is mostly, coming into the 5% category now. The second is, think about it as health related items, right? So health related items again being brought down from either 28, there were some which were even in the 28% bracket, all of them being brought down to either 5% or 0%, because many of the health related items, especially like you're pointing out, cancer and rare disease medicines, all of these are being brought down to the 0% category as well. Health and life insurance again being brought down to 0% nil taxation. The third big category is education related items. So any item which is related to education services again being brought into the 0%, or 5% kind of bracket. So basically, all in all, your essential medicines, food, health, education, all of that comes into the 5 or 0% bracket. And it's the aerated drinks, the sin goods, all of those things which are being taken up to the 40% bracket to, in a sense, make up for the revenue that is being lost in your health, education, and food segments, which of course it makes pure, complete sense.